Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news. As more big news comes into Manchester United, what were we discussing this morning? First of all, little bit early, got to get a haircut, and it's a busy day for Manchester United because we've got Erik ten Hag's press conference coming in at, I think, around midday today. So no 10 o'clock show today. We're live at 9:30, so Goldbridge can get a haircut in between. United moving their press conferences around. It's very irritating. It's much better when it's at 1:30, but they're deciding now they're going to start doing them at quarter to midday, which I think is a stupid time to do it, but Ten Hag's in charge. So let's get on with the show. Edwin van der Sar has been approached as Manchester United's new director of football. Is this true? Is it spin? Does it benefit the Glazers to put a load of bollocks out there? Is it the end of John Murtagh? We'll get into that straight away. We'll also be talking about Cristiano Ronaldo and his apology via Instagram that came out last night. So lots and lots to get into on the show this morning, but we're going to fly straight into this story. Look, I'll tell you that Samuel Luckhurst is up this morning. He said that Cristiano Ronaldo has arrived at Carrington this morning at 8:30 a.m. where he will be training with the under-21s. I mean, wow, amazing, stunning news. Player arrives to train with under-21s when we knew yesterday that was the punishment he had. So there we go. But this is what I want to get into straight away. Manchester United have approached Edwin van der Sar to become their new director of football last week. This is coming in via a European lad who's very good around Ajax news and would have no reason to want to put a speculative story out there about, well, it's not via a European lad, obviously it's via the consultancy guy there, but it will be genuine news because European lad's very good around Ajax stories, and they would not want to lose Edwin van der Sar, so there's no benefit for Ajax to be putting a story out like that. So I believe the substance of the story. There is a little bit more backstory. Apparently Manchester United approached Edwin van der Sar to be their director of football a couple of years ago, and he didn't feel it was the right time, but his dream is to be director of football or technical director at Manchester United. So look, Tala says it's a crap apology from Ronaldo. We will be talking about that in a minute, but I want to focus on this because I think it's more relevant this morning because we do need to move on and talk about Manchester United's rebuild. So do I think Edwin van der Sar will be Manchester United's next director of football? I mean, my understanding is that he's about to sign a new contract for 3 years. His current contract as CEO at Ajax runs out in 2023. Apparently, he's agreed to stay until 2025, but this can't be confirmed until November when Ajax have some sort of meeting or announcement. There's something in the structure of Ajax where they can't announce this new contract for Van der Sar until November. Does that give a little bit of a gap for Manchester United to swoop in and get Edwin van der Sar? Van der Sar, to me, feels like he's a man of his word, and if he's agreed to sign for 3 more years, I don't know what that means. So that was no apology from Ronaldo, says Sir. We are going to talk about it in a minute, mate. Stop trying to shift the show. We will talk about it, though. So Edwin van der Sar, Manchester United, director of football. Apparently, we've approached him in the last week. He's about to be officially announced as the CEO at Ajax for another 3 years in the next few weeks. Is it the time to? Is it an opportunity for Manchester United to swoop in? Well, they should do. They should do this. Is it good timing for Manchester United? I mean, look, I think there's a lot of things that are working in the favour of the club and the Glazers at the moment, and I think this sort of story is a positive news story that will make it appear that the club are trying to do something. I will not believe it until we actually do something. I mean, I think Edwin van der Sar coming in as technical director is 100% needed. He's worked with Ten Hag. They've got a very good relationship, and Ten Hag needs allies. You know, he's had a very difficult week. We've dealt with it very, very well around Ronaldo, around the results. Ten Hag has shown his potential to be a really good manager. What do you do with potential? You nurture potential. You assist potential. So by bringing in Van der Sar, you make Erik ten Hag's job easier and stronger. So yes, and Edwin van der Sar knows the club very, very well. So it ticks that box, which seems to be important for some people. I know for a fact that John Murtagh is not well thought of within that football club as a director of football. We've seen it play out over the summer, the embarrassing trips to Turin, Barcelona, the overpaying for players, the protracted deals on how long they took to sign those players, having to bring in external football lawyers to help negotiate. Manchester United Football Club know that summer transfer window was an embarrassment. They've papered the cracks and dressed it up as amazing. We did amazing work, but everybody knows it wasn't. the public know, the industry knows, and Manchester United know. Murtagh, as director of football, messed that summer up, which is an odd thing for some people because we did sign some good players, but we overpaid, we took too long, we went on pre-season with no new signings. Even the Ronaldo situation was a mess. So it was a mess. Behind the scenes, it was even worse than what we saw publicly. So there was a lot of fallings out. There was a lot of unhappiness. And then there's a general acceptance outside and within Manchester United that John Murtagh is not good enough to do this job. However, Manchester United don't sack people. So, I mean, even Ed Woodward and Matt Judge resigned. So I don't trust that this story will lead to anything. I think Edwin van der Sar will end up signing the new contract at Ajax and will continue with John Murtagh because United... John Murtagh's probably just another one of those people that knows too much, where, he's been there for so long, he knows so much, he's helped the club get dividends and all sorts of shit or whatever it is. I don't see the club removing John Murtagh for Edwin van der Sar. It's what any efficient, proper football club would do, but I don't think we'll do it. The evidence is there. We don't get rid of the incompetent people behind the scenes, and we don't go out and get competent people to come in and do those jobs. The closest we got to it was Rangnick. Murtagh sacked him. So, Rangnick should have been doing Murtagh's job and Ten Hag should have been the manager. That's what the plan was and that's what should have happened. And we got rid of that person. We've been reasonably good at sacking managers and bringing good managers in, but we've been if you look at the last 10 years, we have never provided a manager with a technical director on their level. We've had bloody Ed Woodward doing the job. We've had Murtagh doing the job now. We've never gone and got the director of football that a club like Manchester United should have. And as I said, I think the closest we got to it was Rangnick. Powerbridge, do you think Van der Sar will be given autonomy over important decisions such as recruitment and contract renewals to Stone of Jelly? Hi Mark, love the show. My opinion, Ten Hag has been disrespecting the GOAT since the start of the season, says Dylan. Congratulations to the Glazers to completely destroying our relationship with Ajax if we take Van der Sar, says Mal. I mean, look, I think there's a few good points there. And I think they probably all... cauterized together in the sense that I think Edwin van der Sar is a man of morals. Would he want the Manchester United job working under people like Richard Arnold and the Glazers who are not football people? He might be better off staying at Ajax. I would suggest he is. I think Van der Sar is better off staying at Ajax than coming and working at Manchester United if you look at the last 10 years. So yeah, I don't know that he would. And what control would he get? Would he get total control over what's going on? Probably not. And also, let's not forget, Edwin van der Sar, correct me if I'm wrong, is the CEO of Ajax. He is not the director of football. He is not the technical director. He is the CEO. He is in the Richard Arnold position at Ajax, as far as I'm aware. So it would be a slightly different role for him. I would like this deal to happen. I really hope it does happen. But I think it's way too competent for Manchester United to remove John Murtagh and bring in Edwin van der Sar and give him proper control as director of football. It's way, way too efficient. It's way too much like a football club. And it's totally the opposite of what a brand football club does. So I don't think we're going to do this. I think it's a bit of noise. Coincidentally, I do not think it's come from the club because it's coming from Ajax side. It's coming from the Netherlands side, which gives me a little bit of hope. But I don't think we'll do this. We should do it. As I said, I've never spoken to anybody, whether it be journalist, football fan, or people within the club that think that John Murtagh's good at his job. Nobody does. They think he's over-promoted. They think he's probably a decent scout. Youth development maybe, but he's not anywhere near the sort of... I mean, somebody described Murtagh to me as Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. They said, basically, nice guy, works really hard, but the minute he leaves Manchester United, Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea, not even Aston Villa are going to want him to be their director of football. And that's the problem at Man United, one of the biggest clubs in the world, but they do not recruit the best people. And when those people get removed or sacked, nobody wants them. Nobody wants them. I mean, the only two I can think that have done reasonably well is McKenna, who is managing Ipswich in League One, I think. Maybe they're in the Championship now, I don't know. And Carrick, who looks like he might be getting the Middlesbrough job. But there are levels to that. They were first team coaches and they're now having to, basically start their careers at lower league clubs. So same for Solskjaer. If Solskjaer was to get a job, he's going to have to go down to the lower leagues as well. Murtagh is going to go down really low. And yet these people were key decision makers or still are key decision makers at Manchester United. So yeah, look, whatever you think about Murta, he's not very good at his job. But you could, it's not fair to just, he's only being highlighted because we're looking at Director of Football, Edwin van der Sar. There are plenty of other people within that club who are just not very good at their jobs, unfortunately. Steven Gerrard has gone, Andy. Yeah, that's what efficient football clubs do. I can't really complain about that. I think it's probably spot on, to be honest with you. I am going to give you a little bit of a glimpse of something now, but we're going to come back to it in a minute. I don't want you to start commenting on it straight away because that's my combined 11. I didn't do it on the preview yesterday, so I will be doing it a little bit later in the show, but come back to me for a moment. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens with Edwin van der Sar. I think it's an interesting story, and I do think that there is some credibility to it because it's obviously being reported over from the Ajax side, so got no issues with that. Really, really do hope that it happens. I think most of you would hope it would happen, but I also feel that it's probably a little bit of a stretch that Manchester United would be competent enough to do that. And I think it's a bit of a stretch that Manchester United would even be able to be competent enough to get persuade someone like Edwin van der Sar to do it. So we'll have to wait and see. We may never talk about it again, but let's hope that we are talking about it because it would be a step in the right direction. One thing I can't comment on before we move on to this Ronaldo apology is I know within the club they don't rate Murta. I know within the industry Murta's not rated, and I know within the fan base Murta's not rated. I don't know what Erik ten Hag thinks. I think Erik ten Hag would probably want a new director of football. I know he wasn't impressed by what happened over the summer with De Jong. I know he wasn't impressed with how long it took to sign Anthony, and I know he wasn't impressed by the players that got recommended to him. So it's complete guesswork, but I would imagine Ten Hag is not happy with John Murta either. So look, let's see what happens. But I'll make a prediction here, prediction bridge. John Murta's going to be at this club for a very long time. I don't think we're going to move him, so we'll have to wait and see. Okay, let's go to the next thing then. You can read this on the screen. It is Cristiano Ronaldo's quite lengthy response to everything that went on yesterday. We've had a few people saying that that's no apology at all. Well, let me read it to you. As I've always done throughout my career, I tried to live and play respectfully towards my colleagues, my adversaries and my coaches. That hasn't changed. I haven't changed. I'm the same person and the same professional that I've been for the last 20 years playing elite football, and respect has always played a very important role in my decision-making process. I started very young. The older and most experienced players' examples were always very important to me. Therefore, later on, I've always tried to set the example myself for the youngsters that grew in all the teams that I've represented. Unfortunately, that's not always possible, and sometimes the heat of the moments gets the best of us. Right now, I just feel that I have to keep working hard in Carrington, support my teammates, and be ready for everything in any given game. Giving in to the pressure is not an option. It never was. This is Manchester United, and United we must stand. Soon we'll be together again. And that effectively is Cristiano Ronaldo's apology for Manchester United, and I suppose Manchester United fans as well. How do you digest that? It's an apology. Whether you want to accept the apology, that's up to you. There's some bitter people out there that just don't want to give people a second chance or anything like that. Even for me, I must say it fell a bit flat. It was like, that apology has to come out. Some people will say it's brand-specific apology. Some people will say it's from the heart. I think it covers everything it needs to cover. Basically, I've had a long career. I've always been professional. I always try and help the team and the players around me. And we're all prone to a moment of weakness. You can't give in to those weaknesses. I'm going to work hard to try and prove that I'm part of this team, and I will be back. So the way the fans and media are treating Ronaldo makes me sick, says Hassan. And I think, my general feeling is, what do you want now? I think it's in danger of becoming a witch hunt, basically, which is quite apt because we are approaching Halloween. The behaviour on Thursday was unacceptable. He's accepted it was unacceptable, and he's apologised and said, "I'm going to work hard to try and get back." That's it for me. That's it. There's no. I don't know. I don't need to see another non-United fan on Talk Sport or Sky telling us what a disgrace it is, because you're just doing it for clicks. You're not a Man United fan. What do I give a shit 48 hours later that you're screaming and shouting about how disgraceful it is? I don't. I really don't. I think most of the fan base is starting to move on, and we do need to move on. We're playing a massive game tomorrow night. We're talking about a potential new director of football. The apologies come in. You can accept the apology or you can't accept the apology. But the fact is, I think what do people expect? I mean, for me, I just think that the decision is with the club, and the club need to act quickly. I still think the best way to deal with this is for Ronaldo to leave in January and Manchester United to buy a striker in January. That's the way forward for me. And therefore, what do you do between now and January? We need calm. We need to focus on the pitch. That's where we need to focus. We've got Chelsea tomorrow, and then we've got some really winnable games after that. There's some momentum to go and build forward there. And the less we talk about Ronaldo, the better. And you know, I've got no problem with Samuel Luckhurst in the Manchester Evening News telling us that Cristiano Ronaldo arrived at Carrington to train at 8:30 this morning. But are we going to find out whether he had a meal deal at lunch, or what route he took home, or did he stop off and buy, you know, a takeaway for Friday night? We're going to get Zoom cameras and find out that he's taped the Bake Off and he's watching that. You know, we don't need that. We don't need that. I don't think Man United fans want that. We need to move on. The apologies dropped. For me, I don't really care what you think about whether you want to forgive Ronaldo or not. And I don't really care what I think, whether I want to forgive Ronaldo or not. It's up to the manager. If the manager throws him into the team next Thursday for the Europa League game against Sheriff, that's a big decision. We can discuss it then. If he doesn't put him into the team ever again, that's a big decision. But we can't analyse every bloody minute of something that happened nearly 2 days ago and then has now been apologised for. We have got Erik ten Hag's press conference coming up at midday. I'm sure he's going to speak about it. But I feel that we need to move on and we need to draw a line under it. It's very clear what some people think about it, and it's very clear what other people think about it. But I think it becomes damaging, and I think Ten Hag, hopefully, and probably will at lunchtime, try and draw a line under it and just try and move on to what is a massive game tomorrow. And Ronaldo's not part of that game. But you know what? I know what's going to happen tomorrow, and you know what's going to happen tomorrow. There will be certain journalists, ex-players who will want their say on national TV, and I just don't think it's going to stop. And my only concern in all of this is the manager and the team and the momentum that we may have from that Spurs game being damaged by a story that really everybody needs to sort of move on from. I mean, we do need to move on. We had Paul Pogba at the club for 6 years, and for about 5 years of that, half the fan base didn't like him and half the fan base did. It's not like a division in the fan base around certain players is anything new. I think we can all occupy that sort of debate and deal with it. But as I say, I mean, what more do we want? Like, potentially the club should terminate his contract. They're not going to do that. We're a money club. I think Man City might terminate his contract. Maybe another club like Chelsea would. Man United would never terminate his contract while there's a chance that he could start, you know, being valuable to them again. There's probably a load of shirts still to sell as well. Do you think the players will turn on him as well, like Bruno, Varane, Casemiro? Would the atmosphere be awkward when he's back training with the first team? Never in a million years, Michelle. You know, I think certain players might turn on him, but not those three. Bruno is a very close ally of Ronaldo's. They may not work well together on the pitch, admittedly, but off the pitch they're very, very good friends, as is Dalot. Varane and Casemiro are amazingly good friends. Obviously, they've been through so much at Real Madrid, so I don't think they're about to turn on somebody that they've built relationships up with for years over, you know, an issue with a manager who, I guarantee you, Casemiro, Varane and Bruno are not as close to Ten Hag as they are to Ronaldo. What I would say is, though, that those players are all very professional and they're going to back the manager. I don't think, and I've not heard, that there's any major issue between Ronaldo and any of the players, other than some that may be from last season. So I don't think there's going to be some mutiny within the dressing room with people turning their back on Cristiano Ronaldo. I imagine there's some players in that dressing room that privately think what we think, that it's best for all parties to go, but I'm not hearing that there's any big fallout with Ronaldo in the dressing room, because it's between the manager and it's between Ronaldo. We all acknowledge the history, he's a legend, but he's dominating everything at the moment, whether he plays or not, says Paul. I agree, and I think, you know, there's nothing we can do about that. He can't take that poor excuse for an apology to his yacht this week. We have bigger fish to fry at Stamford Bridge, says Charlie. Thank you very much for the super chat, Charlie. And 100% he's looking for the way out. I mean, I finished the stream last night and I went on to a stream with Speed, who's obviously a Ronaldo fan, and I said, look, at the end of the day, it's not about how United are treating Ronaldo. Ronaldo wants to go. Ten Hag wants him to go. The people who can solve this are the people that can build a new stadium, that can piss off back to America and sell the club to someone who cares about the club. I mean, where we are now, as far as I'm concerned, is on the same story we were this morning. Ten Hag, Van der Sar should be our director of football, but it probably won't happen because we've got incompetent people in the club. Morning, Mark. This story needs to move on now. In the media, we have a big game. Anyway, Viva Ronaldo. Any chance of Speed on tonight's show, says Ty. We'll have to wait and see. And Mark, do you think the ex-players are going to scrutinise Eric even more, considering, according to them, he has disrespected Cristiano, says Gurav. We'll have to wait and see on that as well. Tevez fell out with Mancini and left the club for a while before returning and contributing to their first league title. Not the first time a player has fell out, won't be the last time, says Anurag. Oh, mate, I remember. What was it? What was his name? I mean, there's so many examples of this. And, that goes unwritten, that 100%. But I agree with everybody else. I do feel that there is a need to move forward. There is a need to move on, and I'm so glad that we have got this Chelsea game coming forward because, I understand what it's like for journalists and in the sense that they have to keep selling a story, don't they? But I also feel that as fans, we need to move on. Because otherwise we're just going to get locked up in the same old rotation. And, I was saying this to somebody last night. The cold, harsh fact is that when you look at this story, a player fell out with the manager and stormed down the tunnel. Are we going to keep going on about it forever and ever and ever? And the trouble with any argument is it dilutes the further you get away from it. Whether it's the worst thing that's ever happened or whether it's, just a big event or whatever, it's never as big as when it actually happens. And yet people keep talking about it and talking about it and talking about it. I think we just need to move on. I really do. In this in spirits with that and in keeping with that, I forgot to do this on the preview yesterday. So I'm going to put it up on the screen now. So this was my combined 11. It went out on Twitter this morning for Manchester United versus Chelsea. And I thought, you know what, I'll bring it into the show because we like to be interactive. Now, first things first, let me just remind people that this is my combined 11. What that means is it's mine. Doesn't mean it's yours. Doesn't mean you have to agree with it. This is my combined 11 for Manchester United versus Chelsea. Now, Reece James is injured. Chelsea fans don't seem to realise this. I don't pick injured players, that I know aren't injured anyway. So there we go. Yeah, I'll whiz through it very quickly. So De Gea in goal for me. I know Kepa's been decent, but I think De Gea has been absolutely the better goalkeeper this season. Dalot at right back because Reece James is injured. I like centre-back pairings and I'm playing a back four. So that sort of knocks out any of Chelsea's defence, which has been a little bit rotational. I do like Thiago Silva. I like him a lot, but I'd go with Varane and Martinez because they've got an understanding as a partnership. So that justifies that. For me, Cucurella goes in at left back. I think he's had a bit of a difficult time at his start for Chelsea, but I just think Cucurella's a better left back than Chilwell and Shaw based on the last year or so of form. Into the midfield, Casemiro has to play. I've always been a massive fan of Kovacic, so I can't not put him in. He's one of my favourite players. When you've got one of those players that... Look, I had a mate who's not a United fan and he loved Carrick. He always said, I don't understand why Carrick doesn't get the praise he deserves. And I'm a little bit like that with Kovacic. I wanted him to come to United when we were linked to him. I know to some people it's controversial, but I've always been consistent that I like that player. And I think him next to Casemiro would be brilliant. And then I went with Mason Mount because I wanted to go with Eriksen. But Eriksen doesn't really play at 10. And I don't also know if Eriksen's fit tomorrow. So I went with Mount and Kovacic. I really wanted to get Eriksen in. And that's the only area I would go, yeah, Eriksen probably should have got in the team. Sir Marcus says, an apology expresses remorse for something that was done wrong. And there was none of that in the statement from Ronaldo. Are you going to move on from it, Sir Marcus? Or are you just going to keep talking about Ronaldo? So Eriksen I would have put in, honestly. But I went with Kovacic. And as for Bruno, look, Bruno's been pretty average for 6 months. He was brilliant on Wednesday night, but I felt it was a bit reactionary to throw Bruno in for one game. So I did go with Mount, who I think has had a better season this season, even though he's not had his best season. I went with Mount. So that explains the Bruno thing. Probably just a timing thing for Bruno. And then the front three, I think Anthony walks into that team. I think he played brilliantly against Spurs, and I don't really think Chelsea have got a really good right winger at the moment. So Anthony for me. Off the left-hand side, it's Sterling or Sancho, and I just think Sterling, as much as I don't like it, I think at the moment Sterling is the better option. And up front, I mean, a lot of people said to me Rashford on Twitter, and I was like, but Rashford's not scored a goal in 3 games. He's missed loads of sitters, and I don't really think he's a forward. For me, it's Rashford or Sterling. It's not Rashford up front. And whatever you think about Aubameyang, I think he's a way better striker than Rashford. We're talking about number 9 here. I mean, I think it's slim pickings, but I'm not putting Rashford ahead of Aubameyang up front. I'm sorry, I don't know what planet people are on. I don't think Rashford's anywhere near Aubameyang as a striker. I'd go Rashford against Sterling on the left, but I'm not putting Rashford up front. Now, hopefully he'll prove me wrong tomorrow and over the future weeks, but I don't think Rashford's proved himself up front. I don't even know if has he scored a goal as a striker for Man United this season? Because most of his goals seem to come from the left. I am a big fan of Marcus Rashford, as everybody knows, but I don't know where this Rashford's a striker thing has come from. There's no evidence of it at all yet. So I think the argument is, do you go with Rashford or Sterling off the left for England and in a combined 11, but not up front. Not up front. The evidence is not there for me to put him up front ahead of. And I know Aubameyang divides opinion, but come on, he is a proven number 9. I'm not going to put Rashford up front over Aubameyang. I'm sorry. I'd put Rashford ahead of Sterling. We can have that argument, but not ahead of Aubameyang. So it's an interesting one, and I quite liked doing the combined 11 for Chelsea because I think it's such an exciting game tomorrow. The managers are very, I would say, similar. The teams are pretty similar, and therefore you get a combined 11, which creates a lot of debate points. So I quite enjoyed it. I think sometimes when you do it with a combined 11 with Arsenal, it gets quite aggressive and bitter. But I felt the Chelsea one, there was a few differentials there. Chelsea fans would say, "Where's Thiago Silva?" A few of you said, "Where's Bruno?" So I get it. Where's Eriksen? Which was the hardest one to leave out for me. But I'm massively excited about the game tomorrow. I don't really have any ill will to Chelsea, and I don't think Chelsea have any ill will towards us. I think it's just a really interesting gauge of the season so far, of two teams in very similar situations, on and off the pitch, trying to get back to former glory, going head to head. Callum, thank you very much for being a member for 21 months. So yeah, I'm really intrigued by how it's going to play out tomorrow, and I'm confident. I think we can keep a clean sheet, and I think that again can be the platform to go and get 3 points. But I think the result tomorrow will be built on a strong defence, as it has been for quite a while. Rashford and Sancho have had a better season than Sterling this year, says the Football Talk. You need to change your name from the Football Talk, mate. Change it to something like the Shit Talk or something. Sancho's not had a better season than Sterling. I don't know what you're talking about. Sancho's not had a very good season at all. Do you watch football? You call yourself the Football Talk and you're saying that Sancho's had a better season than Sterling. What are you on about, mate? You are I'm sorry. I would love that to be true. It's not true. As I said, Rashford versus Sterling on the left, I think there's a debate point there. But Rashford's playing up front at the moment, so I would go with Aubameyang. But Sancho, you know what? I've got to respect the Football Talk there, on a serious note. I love it. I've done this. So you throw in somebody that you want to be in there who's not meant to be there, but you put somebody who is in there. It's like going, Varane and Maguire have been better than Thiago Silva this year. So Varane is, but Maguire, I mean, you can't just throw Sancho in there. He's not had a very good season. I think Jadon Sancho would admit that himself. You can't throw him in there. And look, Dia says Sterling's been shit this season. I don't know how many games you've watched of Chelsea this season, but I've watched them quite a lot. And I agree that Sterling's not played as well as he can do, but he's still chipped in with goals, and he's still had a better season than Sancho. And if you don't think that, then you're not watching both teams play. So, in my opinion, of course, it's always about opinion. When will Martial be available, says Amal. Well, we'll find that out today. I'm hoping that... it's a great point about Martial. We've got the press conference coming in around midday, and I'm hoping that with Erik ten Hag's press conference today, we get a bit of positive news around Anthony Martial. Now, he did say a week ago that there was a chance that Martial would be involved in the Newcastle game. He wasn't. He wasn't involved in the Spurs game. Does that mean we've just been keeping him back, making sure he's back for the Chelsea game, or is he out of the Chelsea game? I don't know. I can't predict on that one. I mean, we could do with him being back tomorrow, because if he isn't, we've only got Rashford up front. We'd have to probably have Charlie McNeil on the bench or something like that. So I hope Martial's going to be back. I did see some pictures of Brandon Williams and Harry Maguire training together yesterday. Obviously, they're big mates. Williams was on about Maguire, wasn't he, the other day when he was doing his little interview. So they're back together training. I don't think they're training physically with the team yet, but they're on their way back. I mean, the funny thing about that one is, I was thinking about that. I don't know what anyone else thinks. With Brandon Williams and Maguire getting close to match fitness, Brandon Williams has probably got more chance of game time than Harry Maguire, even though Harry Maguire's a better player, because you just cannot see why Harry Maguire would get any game time at the moment. I mean, he's just nowhere near. Even Harry Maguire, at his very England best, is nowhere near the level that Varane and Martinez are playing for Man United at the moment. It's an impossibility for Maguire to get back into that team. Even if he is prime Maguire, he cannot get back in that team unless there is favouritism. Like, you can't get back in that team. The only way you can get back in that team is injury. Because Varane and Martinez have consistently shown over many games this year that they are better than Maguire individually, and they are better than Maguire as a pair. So it's really interesting for Harry Maguire, because he's got to work hard, he's got to put his head down, and I think we all applaud that, and it's great to have him back, because if we get an injury, you need a player like that. But if he's coming back thinking he's winning his Man United shirt for that back, I just can't see it. And I know that's a bit harsh, but I just don't see how he wins his place back in the United team. He is waiting on an injury. And that's a horrible place to be, because you're basically, subconsciously at the least, thinking, I could do with one of my colleagues to get an injury to get back in the team. Because everyone wants to play. You know, I love it. And I've spoken to people about this, and I've been in this situation on an amateur level, as I'm sure you have, where you sat on that bench and you know something bad has got to happen to get you your spot, and you aren't, I wouldn't say you're hoping it, because moral kicks in, you know, you don't want to wish injury on a teammate, but I think deep down you are waiting for that opportunity, and you know, I think Maguire's in that position. Unless we're going to start playing a back five, I just think that Martinez and Varane are so good. They're so good. They're two of the best centre-backs in the league at the moment, and as I said, and let's throw Lindelof into it as well. I think Lindelof's decent, I think Maguire's decent. But the level of centre-back defending we have now with those two is unachievable. Like I say, Lindelof on his best day and Maguire on his best day is not good enough compared to Martinez and Varane. They've just become these backup centre-backs. But the most important thing for Maguire is to be fit for the World Cup, of course. Rashid, not just goal-scoring threat, says Shane. I'm not putting Rashford ahead of Aubameyang. I don't care what anybody says. I hope that one day Rashford is better than Aubameyang. But there's bias, there's red-tinted glasses, and there's stupidity. I mean, I can't believe people think Rashford's a better striker than Aubameyang. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Maybe he's going to become that. Hopefully he's going to become that. But no, not in a million years. Thanks, Mason. Let me just remove you from the chat. It's always good to see a twat in the chat and remove them. What Manchester United management doing with Ronaldo? It's disrespectful. It's pure disrespectful. Oh, God. Come on, please. Why do I get attracted to those? We need an out-and-out number 9. Could Rashford get clinical, says Shane. I think with Rashford that, look, we played really well on Wednesday night. I don't know. The interesting thing is Martial always wanted to evolve from left wing to centre forward. And I think Marcus Rashford wants to do the same. But I think with Martial, it was the right thing to do. Thierry Henry, it was the right thing to do. I think Rashford is better off the left. And I might get completely proved wrong here. But for me, Marcus Rashford is crap. Well, no, crap's not the right word. What I was going to say, well, it might be the right word. I think Rashford as a footballer is crap with his back to goal compared to running at goal. And basically, as a number 9 striker, you play with your back to goal a lot because you're the last man against 2 centre-backs and the game is being played behind you. So you play with your back to goal. Martial's very good at it. If you play on the wing, you look at Anthony, Sancho, Rashford, you tend to pick up the ball deeper and you're running at the back four. So you're facing the goal. And I think Marcus Rashford's a much better player, and 100% much better player when he's running at the goal. Now, you can do that as a striker, but the only way you can do that as a striker really is if you're hitting these counter-attack long balls and you're sprinting after them. I think in that situation, Rashford's very, very good. Sprinting onto the ball, one-on-one, he's normally very, very, very good. But that's not really what a number 9's all about. You don't very rarely get the chance to just chase after long balls and sprint forward. You've got to play with your back to goal. You've got to be clever in your movement around the penalty box. I don't see those attributes with Rashford at the moment. The link-up play, no, not seeing the evidence of that. Movement in and around the box, not really seeing that. Playing with your back to goal, strong, not really seeing that. You look at the chance he had against Spurs where Fred threaded him in, get the words out, that's basically an angled run that he makes off the left wing all the time. It just happened to be from a centre position. It's a straight sprint from onto a through ball. That's where Rashford's very, very good. If we could do that for 90 minutes every game of the season, Rashford would be a very, very good striker. But football's not like that anymore. That's like an Andy Cole striker. You know, these little darting runs into space, sprint on, get your shot off. Rashford's brilliant at that. But that's why I think he's better off the left. Because off the left, he can still make those angled runs. But I don't know. It feels like Ten Hag thinks Rashford's a striker, and it feels like Rashford wants to be a striker. So I think we'll have to just watch it develop and hope that it works. Off topic, do you still want to come to Abu Dhabi for the F1 Grand Prix? You can stay at ours, no problem, says Adam. I don't think I'm going to be able to, Adam, because I'm pretty sure it's going to clash with the World Cup. Can we purchase that hoodie, Mark, says Jake? You can get hoodies from the United Stand merchandise shop, which is on United Stand Shopify. But this was personally made for me by Lyle and Scott, so no, you probably can't. Get onto them and see if they'll do it. Run an edition of it. Brandon Williams could give right back cover for Delo a bit of rest in Europa League. Yeah, that's what I mean. I think Brandon Williams is a player that can come into the team and do well. And Kane would be perfect for United in this system. You know what? I was asked about Harry Kane yesterday. Would you take Harry Kane at Manchester United? And I said, I think Harry Kane would be perfect for this situation. Here's to 14 months, says S. Love the show. Shout out to S. He has been a member for 14 months. If you want to be a member, click the join button in the live chat. You get a little badge next to your name and you get access to our live exclusive content. My only reservation about Harry Kane is I think he's 29 or 30 in the next year, which is fine, but he would cost a lot of money, and I prefer United to go and buy a Sesko or someone like that, someone in their early 20s that can be at this club for 6, 7, 8 years before they hit 30. If you bring Harry Kane in, you're always going to be thinking, when's the drop-off, when's the drop-off? And look, Lewandowski's 35 and the drop-off's not been massive. So Zemish says being a member is great. Thank you, Zemish. So I don't think that Harry Kane would be a bad signing, but I also think it'd be a very expensive signing. And I think we need so much. Like Glenn says, Kane's way too expensive for a 29-year-old. We need so much investment at Manchester United. We need so much. We need a right back. We need another midfielder. We need another centre back. We possibly need another winger. We definitely need another striker. So and some people feel we need another goalkeeper as well. So there is so much that needs to be done at United. I don't think spending hundreds of millions of pounds on one striker is the right way to go. And I also think, Nanda's a member and says Sesko in. I know we're not going to get Sesko, but that's exactly the sort of signing that the fan base would love. An exciting young talent that can come into the team in a team at a time where we know we're in a development process. Whether we like the word process or development, we are in a rebuild. What better time to bring in a bit of a raw, exciting striker that can rebuild with us? I've always queried why we bought Cavani, why we bought Ronaldo. I mean, not taking anything away from those types of players, but we were buying Cavani and Ronaldo for the short term when the team was nowhere near winning the trophies that those sort of players should be competing for. What is the point in buying older players, short-term players, when the team is not near winning a title? I said it when we bought Cavani. We bring Cavani in for a year or two. We're not winning the title in a year or two, but in a year or two, maybe we're close to winning a title. Then you've got to replace Cavani again. It's much better to buy a player that's going to be part of that rebuild, so that if it's going to take 3 years to win a title, in 3 years' time, they don't need replacing. They're still part of the team. And I think that's what United need to do. If you look at Anthony, his age profile, you look at Martinez, Malacia, their age profile, even Casemiro and Eriksen. In 3 years' time, I still think that they will be valuable players. Yeah, they'll be into their early 30s, but I still think that they will be valuable players who are doing an important job. But yeah, Cavani and Ronaldo is never going to be like that, isn't it? I'd love João Felix K. I think I really would. What happened to the football fill-in and Ben Foster? Well, he was in America, our man, and the flight was delayed, so it's not my channel. I was prepared to do it, but we ran into delays, so we couldn't do it, unfortunately, which is a shame because I do like doing it. Casemiro and Varane, says George. I mean, I think in 3 years' time, Varane will be 32. I still think he'll be able to play at the highest level. I think Casemiro will as well, and Eriksen. But you're not wrong. We don't need to buy any more 29-year-olds. I think we need to buy a few sort of 22, 23-year-olds. I think that's what Ten Hag needs to do to balance out the squad and have a bit of longevity with it as well. So yeah, that's my feeling with it. 10 years later, Ronaldo remembered for 2000s, not now, says Mark. Yeah, same thing happened with Rooney. Rooney at the end was quite divisive. A lot of people felt that he was spent and wanted him to be sold or dropped. A few years later, no one talks about it anymore. We're talking about Manchester United yeah. It's interesting. There's an interesting comment here. Just want to read it because I don't like to avoid things. So David Ornstein has said there were no offers suitable to Cristiano Ronaldo. Man United probably would have done business by the end of the window if there had been a suitable offer. Roy Keane blamed the club for not letting him go. Our ex-players are part of the problem. Well, I've blamed the club for not letting him go as well, so I presume I'm part of the problem. But the David Ornstein quote there is not actually completely true, is it? Because there were no suitable offers to Cristiano Ronaldo. Man United probably would have done business by the window if there had been a suitable offer. That's two separate statements there from David Ornstein. There was no suitable offer to Ronaldo. There was no suitable offer to Manchester United. Manchester United wanted a fee. Ronaldo could have gone in the summer if United had just written it off. Basically free transfer. Terminated the contract. Whatever you want to do. Ronaldo would have gone then. I think people are getting lost in this and they, trying to attack Roy Keane or anybody else. You need to understand football and you need to understand football transfers. There wasn't anybody willing to pay the money that Manchester United wanted for Ronaldo and to pay the wages that Ronaldo wanted. There wasn't. Absolutely spot on. That's true. But there was plenty of clubs that would take Ronaldo if his contract had been terminated by Manchester United, which is effectively what's going to happen in January anyway. So, yeah, let's not pretend that if Ronaldo had been completely free and terminated contract in August that no one would have took him. Of course they would. Leyton Orient would take him. He's fucking free, So I think we need to move on from this conversation, but it's almost like people are Glazer sympathising. Well, it's not the Glazers' fault. It's Ronaldo's fault. I'd never thought I'd live that day, by the way. I'd never thought I'd live that day where people are blaming Ronaldo over the Glazers, because that's basically what you're doing. We're not talking about storming down the tunnel anymore. We're talking about Ronaldo should have been let go in August. For Ten Hag. For Ten Hag's benefit, Ronaldo should have been let go and we should have bought a replacement. But it always comes down to money. And people were saying, well, we shouldn't let Ronaldo go for nothing in August. We're going to let him go for nothing in January, and we've had all this shit show go on because of it. It's just exactly why these things need to happen. Because John Murtagh, Richard Arnold and the Glazers don't know how to run a football club. And someone like Edwin van der Sar probably would. It's just been handled really badly. And what should have happened in August is that people with party to all the information and all the frustration basically should have said, Ronaldo can go for free. We'll just terminate your contract. And that's what should have happened. But we didn't do it. Have to just make sure we're scouting right on a new striker. We almost got Nunez, dodged the bullet with that one, the touch of Lukaku, that guy. Aram, I would love Nunez at Manchester United, so I don't know what you're talking about there. As a joke, but do you reckon Cristiano has enough cash to buy Man United? No, Nathan. And any updates on the bids to buy the club? Been a bit quiet recently, says Sam. Well, of course it's gone a bit quiet recently. I mean, because everybody talking about Ronaldo, we've even got people sympathising with the Glazers to blame Ronaldo. So, well done. Every day you keep doing that, you are making the Glazers more comfortable. Yesterday they said that we're not going to build the stadium for 2 years. Like, if this Ronaldo story hadn't happened, I guarantee you there'd be uproar in the fan base. 2 years before they even start rebuilding Old Trafford. 2 fucking years. No one's even talking about it because everyone's talking about Ronaldo. So, yeah, the Glazers are probably going to get away with it again for a few more years, aren't we? Because, you know, unfortunately, football fans, everybody is so manipulated by sensationalist headlines that they drop what's important. I mean, I said this last night. Ronaldo storming down the tunnel compared to what the Glazers are doing to this football club, there is no comparison. And yet everybody's talking about Ronaldo and no one's talking about the Glazers anymore. This is why they win. This is why they win, because people will actually defend the Glazers over Ronaldo. It's amazing. But, you know, and people say that you can't be manipulated by modern media. Of course you bloody can. It happens all the time. This is why the Glazers keep getting away with it. And I tell you what, I did a video on That's Football yesterday about the Super League. The Super League's coming back. Don't, you know, protesting on the streets, football fans win. The Super League's coming back. Check out the latest video on That's Football. So in the last 2 days, we've had a statement about the Super League and we've had a statement about Man United not rebuilding Old Trafford for 2 years. And nearly 48 hours after a player storming down the tunnel, that's all anyone wants to talk about. Don't tell me that the Glazers aren't going to bloody win again. Because people are just unable to focus on the more important thing. They just get shifted all the time. Super League statement 48 hours ago. 24 hours ago, we're not going to do anything with the stadium for 2 years. People are still talking about Ronaldo, who's going to leave in January anyway. We need to focus on what's important. Thanks, everyone. Anyway, we're back at midday. We've got Eric Ten Hag's press conference reaction. We'll see what he's got to say. He's definitely going to get asked about this, isn't he? We'll see what he's got to say. Take care, everyone. Don't forget, tonight at 8 o'clock, it's the Q&A show. Bit of a laid back. Might have a red wine tonight. Red wine. And yeah, we'll speak to you all in a bit. Thanks for watching.